Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the challenge. Welcome to the second day of the blood sugar balancing 30-day free challenge. And finally, I'm happy. I'm really, really happy to see that there is some action being taken inside this group. I see people finally post on simple videos that I'm making, which is great because you seem to have finally understood that it's not really about how much you're consuming, but it's how much you're doing, so that I can direct you to get more results. And therefore, I really want everybody to that haven't yet taken action to post their own blood sugar reading, because as we talked the other day, and I'm watching down because I want to see, yeah, we are recording. That's great. So I want to make you understand the importance that if you do not get the data, initial data, then you do not get the ability to see when something is working. How many times have you done something such as a diet or a protocol, or have you taken medicine, or have you taken something and then because maybe your doctor told you, and then like you said, I'm going to take this medicine, right? And then I'm going to see in a few months if it's working or not. I mean, why would you want to wait a few months when you want to get data, or you want to see if something is working? It's nothing more frustrating than doing something for a few months just to end up going to the doctor and then realizing that it's not what you wanted to see. Now, when it comes to A1C, when it comes to things such as really a full transformation, a full body composition transformation that is going to get you better numbers and is going to get you to reverse insulin resistance, it does take a few months. For some people it takes less, for some people it takes more. But when it comes to you balancing your blood sugar, you can do it really quickly if you understand what is the problem of getting your blood sugar to be in balance. So it's almost like saying, I'm going to get the data, I'm going to do something, and then I'm going to measure whether or not this is working. It's this simple as that. And if it's not working, we change, we switch something, right? So with this being said, I need you all to post about your current, like if you have one of these things here, and I have a few versions of those, doesn't really matter which one it is, post your blood sugar reading, because whether it's in the morning, whether it is in the afternoon, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to ask questions such as I did with Aaron, and I'm going to ask, is this what you see every single morning? Is it better in the morning or is it better in the night? There are several people that wakes up, much like myself. I probably have worse blood sugar readings in the morning, which then compared to the afternoon and night, which is most of the time referred as the down effect or the smoggy effect, which basically means that you are you have higher than normal blood sugar reading in the morning despite you not eating carbs, which most of the time, at least 45% of the time, is due to hormonal interaction, which usually is GH, cortisol, and adrenaline, which is basically stress hormones, which are created from your body. Now, why are those hormones being released at that point, elevating your blood sugar levels? It really depends on case-to-case situation. Some of them, it's a compensation because of your liver or organs working in a certain way. The other one is because you might have some sort of other compensation based on stress, based on the way you are always your sympathetic and parasympathetic system working against each other, and that creates this stress-related response. Most of the time, is though something that this happens is more than often seen. And again, there is a solution for that does not have to do or in other words, there is no relation with what you're eating, but there is a solution that you can do with what you're eating. If you understand that that's the case, then you also would understand in other cases, when you have very good blood sugar reading in the morning, but you have worse sugar reading when you're eating something, like you might be able to really switch that. So first and foremost, we need to post your readings, because you need to not to get attached, to get obsessed, to get saying, okay, oh, she has better blood sugar reading than me, whatever the case is. No, it's about is a metric system, much like people taking their weight, people taking their measurements. It's not because you want to see whether or not you're failing or not failing, or whether or not it's good or bad. It's because you need to measure something is working or not. Okay, so if you haven't done it yet, just post. It doesn't matter if it's late or if it's tomorrow, whatever. Just keep posting, and then I want to say after tomorrow, we're going to stop from posting the readings, and we're going to focus from today and tomorrow to post for the next 2 days. We're going to post about what you're eating based on what I'm going to teach today, okay? If you have blood sugar bad blood sugar markers, or like if you have bad numbers, it really comes down to your ability to be able to understand macros and understand how to mix food and understand what comes first and what comes after, which by the way doesn't have to do anything have to do with losing weight. Like when you want to lose weight is a very or better say not only losing weight but also improving your body composition is a very not long but is a very distinct process, is a whole view of nutrition. When it comes to changing your blood sugar readings, it's much easier than you think. Okay, that usually has to do with the spikes that your blood sugar creates based on what you're eating on an acute time, meaning like on a short term, meaning like if you're eating now, chances are in a few hours you would see spikes, right? Now you can feel free to ask all the question about you know inside the group about why are spikes this or why this is happening or what that. You might gain a benefit from like me answering this question and making you learn more, but chances are you've been in a group already talking about this thing for years and getting 10 different answers a day and then like getting more confused than ever. So what I feel like is much better for you to do is really follow the process, meaning like I see people posting now, the next thing is like, how can we, based on what we have when we're learning on nutrition, how can we switch that to learn something and then apply what you're learning and then measure if it's working. Now this is going to take us to what should you do if you have a bad blood sugar reading or not as you wish it would be after you eat, or how can you eat better to create a more balanced blood sugar. Now from the premise of the fact that by you getting a better blood sugar reading, it's not going to mean that you're going to lose more weight. It's not going to mean that that you would gain any and that you would put your diabetes in remission quicker. It's not going to mean that you are going to lose more weight and get more receptive body, like doing this day by day is not going to mean that. And therefore I say all the time, I say, if you are doing fine, if you feel like you're getting better and still you do not get to the level that you want, and then you don't have any debilitating symptom, I like to call it this way, meaning like extreme fainting or like blood pressure going down and up, hypo or lower glycemia, like going to the restroom so many times, like throwing up. Like if you don't have that, those are the debilitating symptoms, then chances are you might not need to be so extreme and diligent with taking your blood sugar every time you eat. So you just take it maybe once every couple of days and you just figure out if the pattern is working. But if you're going to take those, the good part is that you should really do something about it. So with this being said, what I want you to do, there is really two things that can benefit, or few things only that can benefit you from achieving a very stable blood sugar reading when it comes to your picking your finger and stuff. And number one is really the time of what you're eating, meaning like the time between meals, the frequency. And then is the composition of the meal, meaning like, you only eat certain things. And this is why when you see people, for example, doing keto, taking completely off carbohydrates, if you are a person that is very cortisol producing person, like it's gonna lower in your carbohydrates, gonna even produce even more cortisol, even though most people say that you need to take off down your carbohydrates, right? So then they get elevated reading because of the cortisol production from that. Another way, like if you completely take off fat and then you just go high carb, obviously you get the insulin spike, right? So what you need to do is really to know how to mix your blood, how to mix your meal, and then the frequency, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead, I always like to go with a balanced approach because most of the time is what people need. And whether you have done it before or not, what the information you're gonna see here first is obviously it's not replacing your doctor advice, but what you should really get from this is that it does take, you need to build a framework and you need to test it, okay? Now, the thing that you need to understand is that most times a balanced meal such as this, for example, 35 or 40% carbs, 30% protein and 30% fat, will do a lot better in balancing your blood sugar than just a single meal, right? What that could look is, for example, 40% protein for like you can even go a little bit less in carbs, like starchy food only 20%, and then fibrous carbs 40%, okay, which is usually vegetable and stuff. This will do a lot better for balancing your blood sugar than just taking off one of these groups here. Is very conclusive. Then, like, when you see this information, this is mind-boggling to me. And again, this is wrong information. It's not like for lowering body fat, you just go high on protein and lowering carb and higher in fat, and then to maintain that, like, is all what I'm saying. Or if you want to then for bodybuilding or creating muscle mass, like this is the wrong type of information that you want to get. For the most part, if you take your protein, if you eat enough protein, and most of the time, like we said before, if you eat enough protein, like we said here, if you eat 40% protein for most meals by any chance, and if you eat 25-30% carbs, and then the rest vegetable, like, it's inconclusive. Like, if you just get more fat and less carb, or higher carb and less fat, it will produce the same sort of results, because automatically you're going to be in a calorie deficit, right? What that would look like on a real life, like that would look for something like this, right? Like, you could look for some sort of like starchy carbs, a good portion of protein, and then some vegetable. Like you can add some slice of avocado, but I wouldn't eat the whole avocado, for example. Like, that's way too much fat. Because then if you eat the whole avocado and then you reduce maybe some carbs, you're still getting a higher calorie meal than looking at a mixed meal. By mixing the meal, it's gonna take away, like, it's gonna minimize the spike from carbohydrates, and in the same way, you're gonna give your body all the macros it needs to create a lower stress response. Okay, so this is why I'm advocating for you to eat a couple of meals like that in the day. And I would say, to make it really conservative, you might go with some sort of with 3 meals like that in the day, like spaced out each 6 hours, for example, or each 4 or 5 hours, something of that nature. And you would space it out like evenly and go with an even approach of meals. Why is that? Because as we said before, by you just basically going towards specific, like something even, and something like even on the plate and even on the timing, you get data. Like, you just do that. Like, probably you've never done in this way, because there is always like this extreme approach you've been following, and that as a result, you always create an extreme response. Like, instead, if you do that, like, you're gonna get data, because then we measure again in a few days, and then you see what are the readings. Okay, you can maybe measure after the meal, but you also can measure after 1 day or 2, and you can see what the response is. Now, why is that important? Is because, at least by the logic, what it says, what the logic says, it would say that all the physiology and the science would say that this would balance out your blood sugar. Could that be probably the case for you? Chances are it is. Could also be that there is some sort of different response. It could also be because each person is different. But this is why, if you happen to take blood sugar readings after your meals, like, you want to know, you want to be using those. Like, in case that you take a balanced meal and it's lower reading, chances are you want to be using balanced meal for most of the time. If you eat lower carb for one meal and then you get even like a worse response, chances are lower carb is not a good approach for you. So, like, you want to use data that you're getting for that. The last one, and this is very important, is that if you have some down effect responses, meaning like you have higher than normal readings in the morning, and you want to fix that. Most people have that by doing even extreme approach, such as keto, intermittent fasting. Why do you want to be doing it if that's the case? Because we've been testing it, and not only me, empirical study, but also from scientists from other sources of other channels in related to insulin. backed up by doctors and stuff. Like there is one thing that actually works for that. Eating lower carb in the night, or eating some carb, or eating some snack, you always can get some mixed reaction. What it really unanimous, and it really works, is you really starting with minimizing the window of eating in the night. Meaning, like, you might eat a little bit more during the day, like 2 meals or 2 meals and a half during the day, and then as close as you need to 7 p.m. or 6 p.m., you might not want to eat after. Meaning, like, if you want to try a window of eating or some sort of intermittent fasting, do fast on the night and not on the morning. Fast on the night, then take your blood sugar reading in the morning. If it's improving, chances are that particular style of window of eating is working for you. So this is basically all I have for you. So today I'm gonna say, to recap, we have 3 meals, 3 balanced meals. You can check, you can see that the video itself. I'm gonna make a small post of what you should be eating on that sense. I'm not gonna tell you exactly what source of food you need, because I really feel like you need to have some critical thinking and then look at the meals and choose for yourself, because otherwise you're always going to be this person looking to be saved. Okay, what should I eat? What should I not eat? This is not what it's about. It's about looking at the logic and say, okay, I'm going to use this type of carb. I'm going to use this type of vegetable. I'm going to use this type of protein. I'm going to test, this is working, how I feel energy, I feel hunger. Maybe you take your blood sugar, is well, you tested a meal and it's working, boom, you're going to put that in your schedule, and you're going to have that every so often. This is the way it works. 3 meals, space it out evenly, 3 balanced meals. I'm going to make a post about it. If you have the down effect type of response in the morning, you do want to try to get a shorter window of eating in the night. And this is basically all I have. Get to work, post for the next 2 days. We're going to do that. Like, I'm not going to go live tomorrow about more. It's about focusing on something really, like, intentionally. Like, you need to eat differently to what you eat. Get away your belief to whatever you're doing that is working or it's not working. Test something different. If you're here, chances are you haven't figured it out. Even if it's partially working, like, you probably wouldn't be here if something is working really well. Therefore, test, and then just go ahead and post, because this is going to help you get to the results that you want. I'm going to talk to you soon, and I'm going to see you in the next video.